Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut this asymmetric blouse with a front lacing bar. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern paper and I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline, and my blouse length. So for my blouse length, I added extra 7 inches from my waistline. My shoulder to bust is 9, my shoulder to under bust is 12, my shoulder to waistline is 17 inches. Next, I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. Come down by 1 inch. My shoulder is 14 inches divided by 2. I have 7 plus half, making it 7.5. From that 1 inch I came down, I marked my shoulder slope. So from here I'll go ahead to mark my chest line or armhole. To get that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine is 7 and I'll mark. Then from that point I'll go ahead to draw a straight line at that point and I'll rule out a line. That measurement I have at the upper part, which is my shoulder divided by 2 plus half, I'll go ahead and mark it here. Place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line. After I'm done drawing this out, I'll fold my tape into 2 and I will mark. After I'm done marking, I'm going to go ahead to come in by ½ inch. From this point, I'll go down and mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have roughly 8.3. Now I'll connect from the ½ inch at the armhole to the lower part and I'll extend it all the way up. After I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead to mark my dart. So to mark my dart is my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So I'm going to mark this from the upper part of my pattern to the lower part of my pattern also. And after marking that, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect my pattern. After I'm done connecting, I'll be marking the dart intake on both sides of the line. So I'll mark 1 inch here, 1 inch on this part, 1 inch here, 1 inch on the other part, and I'll also do it at the lower part of this dress. So if you're a plus size, instead of marking 1 inch, you'll be using 1.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and connect my pattern starting from the under bust to the top length of this dress, and I will repeat this at the other side of the dress. Now I'll place my curve drew, connect from the bust down to the under bust this way, and also connect from this part down to the under bust, or from the bust to the under bust. Next step you want to take is to go ahead to divide your armhole into 2 and you will mark. Then you're going to connect from the bust to the armhole line of the dress. So after marking, this is what I have, and I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides for the dart intake, and I'll go ahead to connect it to the original line. So now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this to make it more visible for you to see. After I'm done outlining this ½ inch on both sides, which is 1 inch, I'll extend it by the side, place my curve drew, and I'll reconnect it back to the armhole. So this is to make sure that the center of the dress is not longer than the side when you're joining. So after now, I'll go ahead to insert my body measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, measure that intake there, replace and add my sewing allowance. So for this pattern, you don't need too much allowance. ½ inch or 1 inch is okay. So now at the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake there, and I will replace. After replacing it, I'll add my sewing allowance. So after marking that, we'll move over to the waistline of the dress. So here I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. Here I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add half inch for sewing allowance. So after I'm done marking, I'll just go ahead to place my curve drew, and I will connect this starting from the upper part to the lower part of the dress and then to the blouse length. So for this pattern, if you want to snatch your waistline, you can go ahead to do that. That is probably taking out 2 inches from your actual waistline, and then you now divide it by 4 and mark, but I'm just going to leave it this way. So after I'm done marking this right now, I'll transfer all these measurements at the other side of the pattern before we go ahead to alter this. So this is what I have after I'm done marking out, and then we'll move over to working on the pattern. So to start, I'm going to start with the lower part of this pattern, and from the waistline I'll be marking about 4 inches. I'll be coming down by 4 inches from this side, and I'll go ahead to connect. So while I'm connecting, I'm going to blend in my back pattern this way, and I'll blend it to the other side. So I'm going to place my tape and measure what I have here. I have 5.5 inches at the center. So that 5.5 inches, I won't divide it equally. On this part, I'll mark 3.5. So from that point, I measured 6 inches from the waistline, but when I was cutting it, I went ahead to reduce it. So after that, I'll go ahead and mark 2 inches starting from the other side of the line. And after I'm done marking that, I will now go ahead to draw out a straight line. So hope you're not confused, or if you have any questions, please also leave it at the comment section. So from that under bust point, I'll tilt my ruler a bit and or slant it, then draw out, then measure about 1.5 inches. At first I measured 2 inches, but I later measured 1.5 inches from the upper part of the pattern, and I will reconnect. So from that point, I'll come in by 1.5 at the shoulder point, and after doing that, I'll create like a curve on this part meeting the other side of the sleeve. So this is what I have on this part of the sleeve, and next I'll be marking my bust dart. To mark your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waistline in front and your shoulder to waistline at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead and minus. So what I have is 1.5 inches, which I marked below my bust line. So after this, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern. And after outlining it, we are going to go ahead to work on the other side, but I'll go ahead to make a dot to indicate a lacing bar here. To mark out this other side, I'll blend in my dart line from that point to meet the center. So now from this point at my waist, I'll come up by 1.5 inches, and I will be slanting this all the way up this way. I'll make like a little slant going towards the other side or the armhole side. So measure what I have here, which is about 4 inches, and I'll measure it right back on this place. Measure 1.5 inches back, and I will reconnect. So you're going to make sure that you recreate what you have on the other side of the sleeve, and then I'll just go ahead and create like a curve and come up at that point. So after I'm done marking that out, I will go ahead to use my marker to outline the lower part of my pattern so that it will be visible for you to see, and I will reconnect the rest of my pattern, and after reconnecting it, I will go ahead to cut it out. So after making that dot, I'll come up by 1 inch at this point and reconnect it. You can also say you measured 6 inches away from the waistline, so you can actually use my exact measurement, or you can just go ahead to use the measurement that suits you. After cutting out, this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So just like I said, after I was done cutting, I went ahead to readjust here a bit. So after that, the next step is to go ahead to cut out our back pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question, please also leave it at the comment section. This is what I have after I'm done cutting. We'll move over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to cut out all my basic measurements, or mark out all my basic measurements. So my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5 because we used a bust that at the front, so that your front and your back pattern will be meeting. So after this, I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, just like we did for the front. So after that, I'll come down by 4 inches from my waistline, then go ahead to also mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. After I'm done marking that, I'll place my ruler and I'll connect and draw out a straight line. After I'm done connecting that, I'll be marking my dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides, and I will connect it to the lower part of my pattern and also connect at the other side. So after I'm done connecting this, I'll come down by 1 inch at this point. Go ahead to connect your dart also. So for this back pattern, if you notice, we don't have a zipper at the back because we are going to be cutting this into 2 pieces and we'll be joining it back. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll add 1/2 inch for sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, mark and add my sewing allowance. Now at the top length, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and I'll add 1/2 inch for sewing allowance. After I'm done marking, I'll connect from the waist to the top length and then go ahead to connect upwards. So for the top length of the back, remember at the front we added 7 inches after the waistline, so you also add 7 inches after the waistline of the back. Now I'll go ahead to reconnect all my pattern. So after this, you want to take out the bulginess at the back so that this dress will relax very well. I'll come in by 1/2 inch, go ahead to extend this to the lower part of the blouse, and I'll also extend it to the upper part of the dress also. So after I'm done marking this, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline this, and after I'm done outlining, we are going to go ahead to work on the sleeve or the shoulder part. I'll mark 1.5 inches, come down by that same 4 inches, but here I came down by 4.5. So I want to create like a little curve, and I don't want the back pattern to come up at the chest line, so I'll be going above the chest line. To tighten the back, I marked 1/2 inch from here. This is just to make the back relax very well when you're putting on the dress because of the lacing that we might have at the front part. So at that point, we have at the middle of the sleeve, I'll connect it to my dart line this way to create a princess dart effect at the back of the dress. So after I'm done marking that, I'll extend my dart lines at the lower part. After extending it at the lower part, I'll come up by 6 inches there and now come up by 5 inches here, and I'll reconnect. I'll also use this same pattern to cut out the back pattern of the other side. The only difference is at the side, instead of having 6 inches there, we'll be having 4 inches. So I'll just go ahead and I will cut this out. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave your comment at the comment section. So after I'm done cutting out this dress, to use the same pattern to cut the other side, what you do is when you're cutting it, you're not going to place it the same way. You have to turn it to the other side, and from there you now measure about 4 inches from your waistline and you will mark. So I'll place the tape, marked the 4 inches, and I'll reconnect it and I'll cut it out. So for the sleeve of this dress, which is a bell sleeve, you can also alter this sleeve from a basic sleeve just like we have here. All you have to do is extend the lower part starting from the elbow point, and you're going to have that. So I have videos on how to cut a basic sleeve in some of my videos. You can go ahead to check it out. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Please join us in our next pattern illustration.